Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the English with Kirsty podcast. And today we have another guest on the podcast, and it's actually somebody that you may remember because she's already been on the podcast once. She was part of the group that was talking about the Conversation Club. But today we're going to have a conversation one-to-one and find out a bit more about her story. So welcome, Helen. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. As you already told, my name is Helen. I'm from Switzerland and I'm an electrical engineer.
Okay, an electrical engineer who wanted to improve her English. So how did that come about that you were looking for a course or looking to improve your English several years ago now? We've known each other for a while.
Yes, we're knowing each other for quite a while. Language is my favorite subject to do. So I was looking for someone to help me during my study because I was struggling a bit with language and I wanted to improve that. And so I asked you if you could help me, and you did and still do help me with quite a lot of grammar work and improving my writing. And now I use it for my job a bit, and now I don't use it. And I still want to use just English that I don't forget. So that's the reason why I still work with you, and then I joined and enjoyed, and I joined the Conversation Club for that reason.
Yeah, so you've got the opportunity to keep practicing, to keep using the skills so that you don't forget what you've learned. And I've noticed a big difference in you from the time that when we first met. Do you remember those first days? I think you were quite nervous about coming to the course about using English, and you're not now. So that's really good. What changed? Why is it easier for you now? How did you get past those feelings of being nervous?
Yes, I was always very nervous, to be precise. Um, During my study, I just had to use the language, and it really helped me to. We had time to practice during our lesson, and then there was this moment where I knew I just have to talk, and I lost the fear of talking and just using the language. Even when I visited England or London, I knew people will understand me, and they did. And I got everything I needed. So I just lost the fear of speaking.
And that's a big
Because
thing.
yes, it is a very big thing for me. And it is till now, I'm not afraid of speaking and making a mistake using the language.
And so how does that help you now? Obviously, nobody likes to be afraid, but are there any other benefits that come with not having all this energy focused on feeling nervous? Like, do you try new things? Do you say more, or do you have more interesting conversations with people?
It is, I'm not afraid. When I go to training, I train in a CrossFit gym. There are people who don't speak German. So the only thing when you want to talk with them, you talk English with them. We have people from the UK, we have people from Finland and other countries, sometimes coaches from a foreign country, and you just use English. It is sometimes just a basic conversation about training or whatever, how are you, and so on. But it is okay. I'm able to talk to other people in a foreign language or in a different language than German.
And this
Or
is nice
Swiss.
for them as well, because if they just came there and nobody talked to them, that would be a bit sad for them. It makes them feel more welcome.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Sorry?
would you have done that before?
No, no, because I was just a bit too afraid. Maybe I was afraid because I didn't have the vocabulary then,
Mm.
which where I already had, but I was just afraid of speaking, making a mistake during speaking English or using English.
And I feel the same. I mean, I definitely feel the same with my Portuguese now. With German and Romanian, it's not so much like that now. With Romanian, I don't really know when I stopped being afraid to speak to strangers or to people I didn't know. But I mean, German is easier because my German is better than my Romanian. But with Portuguese, I don't want to talk to anyone at the moment. But I know that will change. But for you, what did you do anything actively, or was it just because I think there's different components that come to this. There's the vocabulary, because if you don't have the vocabulary, you can't speak because you don't know the words. There's a bit of grammar, because whether people like it or not, you need to understand like how things fit together, how the sentences fit together so that you can make your own. And I guess there's the practice, because it's one thing to read and understand something, but it's something else to actually make your own sentences actively. So all these things come together and it becomes easier to speak. But what would you say was the thing that made the biggest difference for you?
Um, the thing is, what made the biggest thing for me were during the study in the English lessons and in the electronics lessons, we had to have the presentations. During the English lesson, we had some short videos to watch, and we had to summarize them and present them to the whole class. And therefore, I had to improve my listening skills
Mm,
and how to summarize so um, writing a summary and present it to the whole class. And that was, I guess, the major thing for me. And I learn the most when I can do things, which not always works with grammar. I still struggle a bit with that. Um, but at the moment, it's kind of okay for me if I'm not perfect with the English grammar. So for me, it is important that I can talk. I don't have to write and kind of anything at work. I don't need it. Um, and if there are tools to help with writing, but talking is the major point for me now. That I just don't forget how to talk in English.
yeah, now you've done a couple of presentations for us as well at the club, haven't you? You've done the one about your job, and last year the one about your travel experiences. How did you find it preparing to talk to the group? Was that easier now, or was it easier because you had some slides and you could show us things as well, or how was that experience for you in the club giving a presentation?
Oh, it was kind of cool. Um,
Yeah.
it was easier. The one for my job was a bit more difficult because just for me, because I have quite a knowledge. Um, um, and I try to explain it in a very easy way, and it helps to present something additional on a slide that then you can explain and people can talk and see, and we can start a conversation. Yeah, and the other one with traveling was our bike trip to Denmark or around Denmark. When you can show some pictures from the holiday, it's always very nice. But it is, I'm not even nervous when I know I do something for the group because the people who are there and participate in the conversation club are very friendly. It's a
Yeah.
very cool group.
Yeah, only nice people at the club.
Yes, and some people are regularly there on a very regular basis. So am I. If I whenever I can, I'll participate, and some others as well.
Yeah, it's a way to get to know people, and you kind of feel a bit invested in the stories then, because somebody's telling you that they're going somewhere and then you want to know how it was, or someone's got a new job, or I guess because we see each other more regularly, we start to learn about each other and each other's lives, and at the same time, it's not people who are at work, so it's not there's nothing to lose because it's not what do my colleagues think of me. It's just like, oh, there's some people on the internet that I speak with in English, and yeah, I think it's a nice group.
And it's very nice to talk to. For me, it's nice to talk to people who are living in a different country. Um, and you most of the time you learn something new. Things I didn't knew about once talked about subtitling.
Mhm.
It was very interesting. Or the biggest Christmas tree. I'm not a Christmas fan, but the biggest Christmas tree in Dortmund and other stuff. Um, Very interesting, different topics. Um, every month, a different topic, a different kind of conversation. And it is a bit of a surprise for me how, in which direction a conversation leads.
Yeah, because this is the for anyone who doesn't know, this is the we're talking about the Wednesday group, which is the general conversation group. Usually we meet on the last or the fourth Wednesday of the month. It's not always that way, but usually it is. So we don't talk about business. We occasionally people share about their jobs if it's something that will be interesting for other people. Like the subtitling presentation was about that, and Helen's presentation too. But usually that's to kind of show people or to help people to learn about something new. It's not, we don't talk about work as a general topic. So we end up talking about all kinds of things, travel and courses that people have been on or things that they've learned. So yeah, I always learn something as well. I set the groups up so that people can speak English, but I think most times I go away learning something new as well from the other group members, which is cool. And I think like going back to the beginning of your story, you're proof that it doesn't have to be people who love languages or love language learning. It's not only people in that situation who can benefit. Like for your course to start with, you needed English because you were doing the training, and so you needed it, but it wasn't something that you were just this is something I'm passionate about in my free time. It was something you had to do, but at the same time, you could make it more interesting for you, like do it in a way that kind of worked better for you so that you could achieve the goal that you wanted to achieve. And then are you surprised that you continued? Or did you think once you'd finished the training, like, oh, I'll never have to speak English again. That's great. Because you came back and that in itself is quite surprising because you didn't have to come back. You didn't have to keep doing it. So did that surprise you?
Um, it was a decision. In the beginning, after my study, in my job, then I used English quite a lot
Mm.
because I still worked with the university and some assistants there, they don't speak German, so I had to. And I supported students with their bachelor's thesis, and some of them did it with those assistants. Yeah. And I just had to talk English. So I used it on a regular basis. Um, and then I changed my job again. I got a different role within the company, and now I don't use it on a very regular basis at work. And I just had the feeling I came to a point where I was able to speak more or less fluent in certain topics. And I'm not the person who really likes languages. Um, so I remembered the time we had and that you helped me, and then I wrote you an email and asked you if we can get back to a regular meeting. And for I don't know how many years now, we meet more or less once a week, just for an hour. Sometimes it is working on improving the language, sometimes writing, improving my writing skills, or just talking, and that's the majority we do, just talk, sometimes about food, other stuff. Sometimes I'm vocabulary-wise quite out of my comfort zone, and then I use online dictionaries just to try to get the vocabulary in, or you help then. Or I try to describe the word I wanted to say, I just don't remember or know it.
Yeah.
So for me, it really helps. It is something I do on a voluntary basis. I don't have to, but I just don't want to forget what I achieved with English.
Yeah, and I think we have some really interesting conversations, and I'm glad that you're coming to the club. And in terms of the club, I think it's, well, in general, I wanted to, a lot of the people that come on the podcast, you know, are language lovers, but I wanted to also show that if you want to come to the club and you want to improve your English and speak with other people in English, you don't have to be somebody who's like has languages as a hobby. If it's something you want to do and work on, then you know we are not all people like me who like really enjoy learning languages. Sometimes it's just something that you need to do or want to do, but it's more about the people, and we do improve our language skills, but it's about having conversations and not so much feeling like you're having to perform or be in a classroom situation, because the club itself is not a course. The language courses that Helen was talking about that we do are our courses, but the club is a club. So thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there anything else you want to say, or is that everything?
For now, that's everything, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. Have a wonderful day, and everyone else too. And yeah, see you again next week.
You too. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.